Hey guys, and welcome to another sleep-deprived episode of Let's Max Warframe, where we're taking a look at another weapon released in 16.5, the new Grineer sidearm, the Atomos. Now if you're looking at this weapon and thinking, hang on a minute, I've seen this before, well, you'd be absolutely right. It's basically it's a Grineer Gammacor. Even the stats of the weapon are pretty much exactly the same. They both do 50 damage per ammo used at a rate of 5 ammo a second, meaning 250 damage per second base. Now the only difference between the base damage is the fact that the Atomos does heat damage, where the Gammacor does magnetic. Onwards from that, they both have a 5% critical chance, both have 150% critical multipliers, both have 50 round magazines. In fact, the only other stat between the two that differs is the Atomos has a 10% status compared to the Gammacor's 5. However, there is one feature that the Atomos has that its competitor does not, which is a sort of Amprex-esque ability for the heat beam to link to surrounding enemies, which is a huge potential to increase the damage output of the sidearm. It pretty much means that this is a demon love child of the Gammacor, the Ignis and the Amprex, which might explain why it looks a little bit bizarre. In terms of downsides, the weapon doesn't have that many really. It's got a limited range of about 15 meters, which is about the same as the Gammacor again. However, the main problem with the Atomos right now is actually an issue with the model itself, which is the fact that in game, due to the positioning of the weapon on the screen, it blocks a large portion of the screen, making it pretty difficult to actually see where the beam is and to direct it onto target. Other than that, the range is pretty much the only downside I can see to the weapon. The damage is decent, the ammo consumption is good even with anemic agility. Heat combines into a ton of elemental combos very easily, and even with just primed heated charge if the need arises. In terms of building the Atomos, it's not hugely expensive. It's going to cost you 90,000 credits, 1500 salvage, 1300 polymer bundle, 800 rubido and 2 argon crystals, which in no means is very much at all, making this a very affordable weapon to pretty much anybody with access to the Void, old and new player alike. Okay, so let's move on to modding the Atomos. Now it does come with a polarity as standard. Unfortunately, it is the dreaded D polarity. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 6 former to the weapon. First thing we're going to do is get rid of the D and change it to a V. We're also going to add in another 2 Vs and 3 dashes. Now we've got 3 or 4 mods, in fact 4 mods that are going to remain the same between all 3 of our builds. Hornet Strike for damage, Barrel Diffusion for multi-shot, Lethal Torrent for fire rate as well as multi-shot, Anemic Agility for further increasing that fire rate at the loss of a little bit of the damage. The damage is so good on this weapon that losing a bit through Anemic really isn't a big problem whatsoever. And for this we're going to focus on really just straight up elemental. So we're going to go Deep Freeze and Pathogen rounds for Grineer build, and this is going to bring up Viral. We're going to go Convulsion and Primed Heated Charge for max radiation. And obviously this is going to tie into the base heat of the weapon as well, to further increase that radiation damage. Now for our Corpus build, we're going to go with Ice Storm, Convulsion and Deep Freeze to max out the magnetic damage on there. And we're going to combine Primed Heated Charge with the base fire damage of the weapon to bring up extra heat damage. And the reason I go for this rather than trying to put Toxin on here is obviously if you're going to combine Toxin and the base heat on the weapon, you're going to end up with gas, which is not going to be particularly good at all. So you're better off just modding straight up and maxing out that heat damage as much as possible. And for the Void, Pathogen rounds, Convulsion and Jolt, which is going to bring up corrosion, and once again Primed Heated Charge to work with the base heat of the weapon to bring up obviously heat damage in the Void as well. So on to my recommendation as to whether I think the Atomos deserves the time and resources invested into maxing it. And the answer for that is a very easy one for me. Yes, it is. I love this weapon. The damage it puts out, I mean it's not the highest in the secondary weapon field, but at the end of the day, the amount of pure elemental damage it deals is pretty impressive. Plus when you kill enemies with this, they disintegrate with a really cool animation. I'm going to be the first to say that I've never been a fan of the Gammacor type weapons. I find them boring to use, and I've thought that from day one of getting it. But the Atomos, there's just something about it that I really like. It's obviously not going to be the looks of it because it looks like a turnip that's been hit with a nuker and inflated. But the way it plays, the theatre of it all really appeals to me. And it looks absolutely incredible. I have to admit, when I saw a Grineer Gammacor and saw the stats being almost identical, I feared the worst. I feared a poor clone of the original. Another boring weapon that never really lived up to its predecessor. But I was extremely happy to be proved wrong. Now, there's two ways I found to be most effective when using the Atomos. Firstly is the obvious thing of using Mirage. Mirage plus any beam weapon it's always a recipe for good things, and this is no different. The damage increase from Eclipse coupled with the Hall of Mirrors is so effective and can absolutely shred entire groups of enemies with so much ease. Now the second way to play is to use Ember and her accelerant to massively boost the effectiveness of the fire damage on the weapon, and that when combined with the base heat, and if you're using primed heated charge, means that the Atomos absolutely pumps out the heat damage at a rather fearsome rate. Now the Atomos definitely deserves your former. The damage isn't bad, neither the ammo consumption, plus you literally turn your enemies into ashes before your eyes. The only thing I want to ask after seeing this weapon and those death animations is, when are they coming to the Ignis? As always guys, many thanks for watching. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, it helps me out a ton, and I shall see you in the next episode.